Hey, welcome back to the show In the Middle, the podcast that is rejecting the two-party system and pushing America forward so we can get back to the American dream and give the people back its power. So the liberal media is, I think, officially dead. There's a lot of talk that the Democrat Party is dead, but I would argue that there is a chance both parties are potentially dead in the water. And Trump's latest cabinet picks. All that today on the show, guys. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder, if you haven't went over and picked up a copy of my new book, We the Puppets, The Audience for the Best Illusion Ever Performed, make sure to do so. You can do it over on Amazon.com, or you can go to my website, justinstaten.com, and pick up your copy there. And if you're listening to this over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, make sure that you do a follow and a rating and review. That tells me that you like the show and what I can do better, so I can constantly make the show better. I've only, I think we're up to 60 some episodes, but I want to try to make the show as good as possible. I want to give you, the voice of somebody that literally sits in the middle of the country. I don't subscribe to party politics. I'm going to hold the Republicans just as accountable as the Democrats. And if that's what you're looking for, somebody that's not going to give you the partisan spin, but just talk about liberty and why it's important for the American people to have all the power, then this is the show for you. So make sure to subscribe. Also, I want to bring up real quick, I was out yesterday. Some of you probably noticed a show did not drop yesterday, and I apologize for that. But I just need you guys to know that there may be times that I won't be able to do a show. I still run my business outside of here, and there are certain days where my schedule is so full, it's not possible to squeeze in time to record. That should be not the rule, the exception to the rule, but it could happen from time to time. So I do apologize. I was out yesterday for any of you like, there was no show drop today. That is why it could happen in the future. I'll try to create some filler shows to place in there on the event that I am gone and out for the day. I also want to bring up the fact that I had, for those of you that listened to the last episode, I had some technical difficulties, and there was a video that I tried to play at the end about the Smith-Mund Act. And I realized after the fact that that audio never came through. And I do apologize for that. I'm not a technical guru, and this is a one-man band. Like, this is a one-man show, and sometimes I screw up. So it is what it is. I do the show right in my office. I just come in, turn the lights on, flip the microphone on, and go. And, I'm just like you guys. I work every day, and I run business, and I have kids, and they're in everything and every sport. So that brings up my next point. If there's anybody out there that would love to volunteer to help with the show, whether it's running the technicals in the background, helping with the studio software in the background, or just providing content so that we have great things to talk about, as long as it's nonpartisan content, let me know. Drop me a comment, go to my website, and just hit the contact link on my website and let me know. All right. Well, so the liberal media is, I think, officially dead. So if you guys haven't seen the headlines, it looks like CNN is going to start layoffs. And there is whispers that MSNBC might be for sale. And I even heard some people saying, Elon and some other people should buy MSNBC and turn around. You know what my opinion is let them die. Let them die. If CNN is going to have to lay off people, lay off people. If MSNBC is, being pitched secretly for sale, nobody buy them. And everybody turn them off. These are two media outlets that have quite literally, and they're still doing it, they're doubling down every day, which is absolutely absurd to me. And if you guys want to see some humorous stuff, just go turn it on for like an hour. For those of you that aren't, obviously affected by the brainwashing and the propaganda, just go turn it on, watch it for like 20, 30 minutes. You will laugh because it's so laughable. It's so dumb. Like, it is the dumbest media out there. They don't even try to hide the spin. It's crazy. And their viewership is going down and down and down and down. And I say good. I say good because you have lied and manipulated to the general public now for years and years and years. And it shouldn't be allowed. I mean, this should be quite literally illegal for the mainstream media to lie to its audience. And it goes beyond lying. I mean, this is mental manipulation on a grand scale, and it's sad. And we see the fallout from this, right? From creating this false reality around politics and around candidates, like they've done with Donald Trump. And then you get your base of people who are susceptible to this. That's all they watch. And trust me, it's getting fewer and fewer people that watch it. That's why CNN's got to probably start laying off people, and MSNBC is being shopped quietly for sale because it's a turd of a network and people are turning it off. And that's probably why their commentary, people on there doing commentary are still doubling down, because it's a sinking ship. They know that the people who are still watching are simply loyalists who will always watch, and they'll keep doubling down until they're either pulled off the air or they collapse, and those networks collapse, which I think could be imminent. Now, people may come in and try to rebrand them. I think CNN right now is telling their hosts they've got to stop. They've got to get more middle of the road. They got to get more centrist. They got to do more news and less commentary, and they have to be less biased. I don't think any of the people on CNN or MSNBC are going to follow along. I really don't, because they're ideologues. They're genuinely ideologues who believe in this stuff. And I don't know, maybe they don't, and they just hate Trump so much that they're trying to spin this narrative. But it doesn't make much sense to me. But what I do know is it's not looking good for those media outlets, CNN and MSNBC. And if I was you, and like I said on previous episodes, if you are somebody who woke up the day after election completely perplexed as to why so many people in this country would send a mandate by voting for Donald Trump in overwhelming numbers, then you need to turn off MSNBC and CNN, because they are the ones creating this false reality for you. And it's completely unhealthy. And that's what it is. I mean, let's think about this for a second. A lot of people talk about us living in a simulation, right? You guys have probably heard that going around. But in some ways it's true, and I look at the people who watch MSNBC and CNN as like living in a simulation. See, in their simulated world, Donald Trump really is Hitler, because MSNBC and CNN have told them that over and over and over. They've clipped, Donald Trump's videos and his talking points, and they've turned them into little, bite-sized pieces where they can easily take all of his words out of context. Easily. And they created this artificial reality, this like simulation for people on the left, where they genuinely believe he's a threat to democracy. They genuinely believe he's Hitler. They genuinely believe he is a rapist who just goes around raping people all the time, which is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. They genuinely believe he tried to conduct an insurrection. Like, this is, and then you've got all these other people on the other side who don't live in that reality, right? Who don't live in that simulation, going, guys, this is absurd. And we look at them like they're crazy, because it looks crazy, but they're so deep in it, they don't see it. They don't get it. And then the other irony to all of this is, these same networks have called Trump supporters cultists, or that they're in the Trump cult, for years. I mean, you guys have all been said you're in a part of a Trump cult, or the Tangerine cult, or Orange Man cult, or whatever. But you've got the same people that have been calling Trump supporters cult members for years, who are telling people, if somebody voted differently than you should not hang out with them at Thanksgiving. You should not hang out with them at Thanksgiving. That is absurd, but it's happening. And when you go and you study and you see like how can you identify a cult, and what do cults ask their members to do? They ask their members to separate themselves from friends and family and from anybody else that doesn't believe what they believe. And you have the left media out there telling their viewers that they are justified in not wanting to spend time with family members or friends who voted for Donald Trump. So they're isolating their viewers to not go to Thanksgiving with their family, to not talk to their family members that differ politically. That is a cult. And it's so, and we know all the ironies. I mean, we know all the ironies. We've watched them played out. We've watched them play out for the last 9 years. The irony of ironies, where they say you're a cult member, but they're the ones that act like a cult. They call you a fascist, but they're the ones acting fascist. Hypocrisy doesn't begin to cover it. It is literally just irony at this point, right? because of course they're hypocrites. When you have no policies and no platform to really stand on, you're okay being a hypocrite, right? When you don't have character, when lying is an acceptable form of communication, being a hypocrite is the easy part, right? So of course they're hypocritical. It's just the irony now, right? The irony is just laughable and it's almost unfathomable. Like it is just crazy how ironic all of this is becoming. But I think it's clear now with this mandate to send Trump that because they tried to get you guys to think for years now that you were the minority, that if you supported Trump, you were the minority. It is clear now that is not the case. It just took way too long to energize good, patriotic Americans that actually care about the will of the people getting engaged in this last election cycle and actually getting to the polls. I'm glad it's happened. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. I just need to flip my phone over while I'm doing this because business never stops. And yeah. So anyway, but they're dead. I think they're dead in the water. I think CNN, MSNBC are tanking, and I think they're tanking fast. And I think over the next couple of weeks, probably a couple of months, you're going to see their anchors get more desperate. You're probably going to see some of them get fired. Some of them are going to get released. There's going to be mass layoffs. I saw last night that Chris Wallace, who used to be on Fox, went over to CNN, said he's leaving the network to start a podcast, right? That's how bad it is over at CNN right now. Is you've got anchors that are like, I'd rather go start a podcast right now than stay on CNN because it's that bad. And I think you're going to see the anchors that stick around are going to get more desperate for views, which means they're going to ramp up the crazy rhetoric because they're going to be more desperate for views. You're going to see some of them get fired. And I think if nobody comes in and buys them up, which I hope they don't, I hope they just let them fail, right? That's how capitalism should work. If your message sucks and nobody shows up, you should just fail, right? Like stop advertising with them, stop giving them money, and just let them fail. Don't prop them up, don't save them, just let them go. So if you're out there still watching these networks, I would encourage you to turn them off. Go find independent news sources. You will be happier in the end. You will be happier in the end if you stop watching these outlets. Now, there's also talk going around that, the Democrat Party is dead because they're clearly in shambles, right? They're clearly scrambling after this election. And a lot of people are like, man, for all intents and purposes, the Democrat Party is officially dead in America. And that could be true. That could be true. Because they don't have a response. They've half of them have doubled down on identity politics. The other half are asking what went wrong. And then, there's a few people sprinkled in that are going, well, we know exactly what went wrong. You got too deep into identity politics. Either way, they really don't have an answer. And a lot of people are saying that this could affect the Democrat Party for the next decade. Like they may struggle to get back into power for the next 10 years. And I think that's actually possible. But I think the bigger story here and the thing that nobody is going to talk about because we're still so very much involved in tribalism, like us as a culture, the United States, the American people, we're still so susceptible to tribalism and groupthink that I think we're missing the larger picture here. It's not that just the Democrat Party. And I'll say this again before I finish the sentence. You won't hear too many other people saying this. This will be the one place you will hear this because I believe it to be absolutely true. There is a bigger story at play here. It's not that the Democrat Party is dead. I think with the growth of the MAGA movement, I think the Republican Party is also dead in America. I think they are losing power and they're seeing it. Let me give you an example. You had Senator Thune become the majority leader in the Senate yesterday. And if you just take one lap around the social spheres, you'll see that the vast majority of American people were not happy with that decision because they look at him as an establishment Republican. And establishment Republicans might as well be Democrats because they act like it, they vote like it, and they stack the deck in their favor at the expense of the American people. And Americans are waking up to this and they understand it. They wanted Senator Rick Scott to be in that position, the majority leader in the Senate for this new Congress. And they were not happy. They were pissed. And you're seeing this more and more and more where people, it used to be the tribalism, right? The groupthink. If you were a Republican, you would support any Republican. And you don't see that anymore. What you're seeing is whoever Trump supports, that's who the vast majority of Trump supporters or this MAGA movement will end up supporting, right? So it's not even the Republican Party anymore. And Trump said even in the Joe Rogan interview that, if you're going to run for a big office, you got to join one party to the other because you got to have their base to get through the primaries, which is 100% true. And you need that base during the general election to energize and go get the vote for you, to help at least go get the vote for you. And they usually stick with legacy party members, right, in each state. And this year, the Trump campaign kind of flipped the script on that. And I genuinely believe, and I've never asked him, and I don't know if he's ever said it. If it's out there, somebody show it to me. I genuinely believe if Trump didn't feel you needed a base, or if our political system wasn't designed where it was necessary to have a base, he would not have ran as a Republican or a Democrat. I believe that with everything in me, because he doesn't subscribe to all the beliefs of the Republican Party, and he doesn't subscribe to all the beliefs of the Democrat Party. And I think Trump is a representation of most Americans, right? Like, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I can have conservative views on some things and more liberal views on some things, and maybe some libertarian views on some things. I don't necessarily need to put myself in a box that I'm a Republican or a Democrat. And I think the MAGA movement has proven that both parties are in jeopardy of dying, right? And I'm going to call it here first. I genuinely believe that the Republican Party, just because they got into power, and the only reason a lot of people in a lot of states voted down ballot for Republicans was to make sure, because they already knew for a fact with no shred of a doubt that Democrats in the Senate or the House of Representatives would not help push the agenda forward that we have asked Trump to push forward. They know that 100% guaranteed. Take it to the bank. The Democrats would try to obstruct everything Trump does. So that's the only reason Republicans got into office, guys, is because that's like a 60% chance, maybe 50-50, that the Republicans that are being voted in or reelected won't obstruct the mandate that we have given to Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump campaigned. We all said, yep, we agree with that. Our mandate is go drain the swamp, get rid of inefficiencies in the bureaucracies, shake it up. And we're going to talk about some of these new appointments. Shake it up. Drain the swamp, give the power back to the people, stack the deck back in the people's favor, and stop stacking it, prevent their ability to keep stacking it in the political elites or the establishment's favor in Washington, D.C. That's the mandate that everybody sent Trump to do. The only reason these Republicans got elected on a down ballot in most states is because you had a 50 to 60% chance that they would help push the Trump agenda forward. So why does that matter? Because if any one of these senators or House of Representatives do not try to push the Trump agenda forward or obstruct in any way, like Senator Thune, who was just elected in a secret ballot there as the majority leader in the Senate, if they obstruct or don't push this agenda through, they will all be primaried. Guaranteed. They are going to be primaried, guaranteed. There is no loyalty to the Republican Party. So I think that both parties are actually on their way out. And I applaud it. Just like here in Ohio, in our state, we have close to, I think it's 7 million registered voters roughly. And don't quote me on that exact number, but it's close. Out of that, 5 million are unaffiliated voters. The vast majority, and I haven't looked at every single state in the country, but I know here in Ohio, the vast majority of voters are unaffiliated. They're not affiliated with the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. That is why a lot of people called Ohio a swing state. I mean, it's gone pretty red the last few cycles, but we have more unaffiliated voters here than anywhere. Now, think about the power that genuinely gives the people. If you can take a moment to step outside of tribalism or groupthink, or believe that you have to believe you have to belong to a political party, if you can step outside of that for just 5 minutes and look at the fact that if the vast majority of the people are unaffiliated, that's where the power is. The two parties just have done a very good job of convincing you they're the only two options, and they're not. And I guarantee if Trump ran as an independent this year, he would have still won. Guaranteed. Guaranteed he would have still won. And I don't think if you had had a Nikki Haley on the Republican ticket and Trump as an independent, Trump still wins every time. I genuinely believe that because he's the only one that's bringing a mandate to DC of draining the swamp, fixing the establishment, giving the will or the power back to the people and following the people's will. He's the only one that is offering that. He's the only outsider. He's the only non-career politician. And so if we can all realize that the power is truly ours, and the only reason our power has been divided up is because the two political parties divided it up, right? They're the same side, or they're different sides of the same coin, guys. That's why you've got swampy rhino Republicans that act like and vote like Democrats in Washington, D.C. to this day. That's why you've got a lot of them bitching and complaining about some of Trump's picks for his cabinet, because they're not establishment people. And, that's how we're going to figure out who is who over these next 4 years, 2 years, because we'll have a midterm coming up soon. And if any one of these people, Democrat, Republican, whomever, obstructs the will of the people, because we sent a pretty clear mandate with this election, those people need to be primaried and voted out. And we need to band together to do that. We have to stay engaged. Now, in this show, I will bring you those people that are obstructing, right? That are trying to stack the deck against the will of the people in favor for the establishment. I will keep tabs. So if you want to know who we're supporting and who we're not supporting based off of those two metrics alone, then keep coming back to the show, because I will keep my finger on that pulse for this audience, because I think it's so important to stay engaged. We sent a mandate. We're tired of bloated bureaucracies. We're tired of wasteful spending. We are absolutely done with it. We're tired of career-long politicians. We're tired of fighting foreign wars that don't matter to us and sending our brothers, sisters, cousins, mothers, brothers, whatever, to foreign wars. One like my generation had to fight in for 20 years. We're tired of it. We don't want to do it anymore. We want a prosperous America. We want everybody in America to be prosperous. Everybody in America. All American citizens have a pathway to prosperity in America. And we can't do that with a bloated government that cares more about lining their pockets through dark money and super PACs and all this other garbage and, political favoritism and wheeling and dealing in back rooms and bars in DC to make the richest richer and the politicians who pass all the legislation richer as well. We're done with that whole thing. You've taken advantage of the American people far too long. We see it. It's kind of hard not to see it. We're $36 trillion in debt now. So it's very, very hard not to see it, but we are tired of it. We see it now. And we're done. We're done with it. So there is a very specific mandate. And guys, in my humble opinion, I believe now is the time to wipe away the power from both political parties. And my call to you and my ask of you out there listening is really think about this. Has the two-party system brought us closer together or split us more apart? And when you watch these people on camera in Washington, D.C., Republicans and Democrats, do they not seem, based off of now hear me out, based off of the way they vote and the bills that they put forth, do they not seem like two different sides of the same coin? They're a uniparty, guys. They just give the appearance of having different platforms and different talking points to keep us divided. Because just like my example here in Ohio, there are more unaffiliated voters in the state of Ohio than there are Republicans and Democrats. By far, it's not even close. And if those unaffiliated voters that subscribe to neither party would vote in unison for all the candidates that we, the people, want to put forward, that will actually do the will of the people the way it was intended to be done, a Republican and Democrat would have, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party would no longer have any power in this country. None. Zero. And if they don't have power, then they don't have the power to divide us. Right? They don't have the power to be divisive. And they don't have the power to push through establishment policies that only benefit the few at the expense of the many. And that is what we've seen for generations now and decades upon decades in this country. And we've got to build on this momentum. The MAGA movement, whether you liked it or not, is irrelevant. You're missing the bigger picture here of what it created, the opportunity it has created for all Americans to say, you know what, we're done with tribalism. We're done with groupthink. We're done with the two parties, making it appear that they're offering two different things when really they get to DC and they're all in it together, pushing forward legislation that really doesn't benefit the American people, losing money at a $2 trillion clip a year. I mean, fraud, waste, and abuse accounts for trillions of dollars over the last 10 years that are just gone, right? Like, I think the Pentagon just came out last week and said they don't know of the $1 billion or however many, I think it's $1 billion, that went to Ukraine. They're not 100% sure if it was all allocated to the places it was supposed to go, meaning they don't know where the money went. I mean, they do, but they just don't want to tell you. And we see this every single year. And why is that the case? Why is that our reality? Because the two-party system keeps you guys divided and confused. Once you're in groupthink or tribalism, it's hard to step outside of it, right? It is so hard to be like, well, maybe what my side is saying isn't 100% accurate or true. I mean, how do you know Trump is the right person for the job? Because both Democrats and Republicans attack him relentlessly. And if you notice, it's always somebody with a pedigree for DC that is attacking Trump, meaning they're either a lifelong politician, a lifelong bureaucrat, right? I mean, they've been in and out of the revolving door in DC for their entire career, right? Or they're a lifelong media member who has covered DC for forever. And those are the ones who will say, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, but constantly attack Trump, regardless of which. I mean, it's obvious the Democrats are going to do it. But when you see so many numbers on the Republican Party still doing it, I mean, look no further than Liz Cheney for me to prove my point. And Dick Cheney, establishment people, Republicans who say, no, never Trump. And the reason they're never Trump, and they're proving my point, one, they're never Trump, but they're proving my point that the political parties are literally two sides of the same coin. They are. They're proving it. The Liz Cheney, the Dick Cheney, the Bushes, all of them are proving that. All these establishment rhino, the Bill Kristols, Lincoln Project, they're all proving the fact that the outsider is the right choice because that's the one that has the ability to upset the establishment apple cart, right? That he can F it up for them, for their generational wealth that they have robbed the American people to get. That's why they hate Trump. They hate Trump because Trump will change it. And they didn't start calling him racist and misogynistic and Hitler and a threat to democracy and all that until he came out with the tagline, I'm going to go drain the swamp. That's when it started. So my call to you guys, and I'm sorry, I went down the rabbit hole there a little bit, got a little word vomit, little word salad. But I think both parties are dead. I think this is an opportunity for America to do something really big, to where the people actually band together. And I'm working on some stuff in the background, so maybe we can organize this and coordinate a little bit better so that we can speak, unaffiliated voters, independent voters, whatever we want to call it. The people can speak louder than these political parties. Because guys, trust me when I say the political parties don't have your best interest in mind. And there's talking heads out there that'll disagree with that, and because they still believe in the groupthink and the tribalism, not 100% the will of the people. And that's fine. But I believe that the political parties do not have your best interest, my best interest in mind. They have their interest in mind. That's it. And there are so many more people out there that don't affiliate with them. And if we could vote in one voice, in unison, and donate our money in one unison, not to the Republicans or the Democrats, we would completely strip away their power to screw us over and over and over again. So consider that over these next few weeks. And I've got some stuff coming out to hopefully try to organize some of that for us. Let's get into some of Trump's latest picks here, because the media, the dying lamestream media, CNN and MSNBC, are freaking out. Even the legacy media, the ABCs, CBSs, NBCs are freaking out. And the two picks that everybody and liberals' heads are spinning, like it's almost like The Exorcist, right? It is so like, oh man, they're just freaking out. And it's kind of amusing that freaking out the way they are. But the two picks is Matt Gaetz and Pete Hegseth. Those are the two picks that everybody is literally losing their minds over. And, I think this is great. Now, I will be honest and say when Pete Hegseth's name was mentioned for Defense Department, I initially was shocked. I was like, who? What? Like, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? This is a good thing. I genuinely believe this is a good thing because I have been beating the bushes and beating the drum for 2 years now that we have to drain the swamp. We have to actually going all the way back to 2016. I've been like that. My personal opinion is we got to drain the swamp. The thing that's holding America back is DC, the establishment in DC. We got to drain the swamp. So it's been my thought that that's what needs to happen. And you can't on one breath say you want to drain the swamp, but then on the other, get upset when somebody is appointed that's not an establishment person, right? And my initial reaction was like, oh my gosh, he's not experienced enough or whatever. But then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. He has experience. I mean, the guy's got degrees from, I think it's Princeton and Harvard, right? Like he's smart. He's a combat decorated veteran who has 2 Bronze Stars, served in both Iraq, Afghanistan, and I think a couple other places. Super smart guy, cares deeply about our military, our American military. And it's like, well, if we're going to shake it up and really drain the swamp, don't we need some people from the outside? I think so. Matt Gaetz, is he an outsider? He's been in Congress for quite a while now. So not necessarily an outsider, but somebody who has sought the truth when it comes to the weaponization of the Department of Justice. I mean, he has been the loudest advocate, there's been a couple others, one of the loudest advocates for de-weaponizing the Department of Justice. And I mean, how unconstitutional it was for the Department of Justice to weaponize against American citizens who differ politically and or their political opponents, i.e. Donald Trump. He's been one of the loudest critics of that. And so tapping him to be your attorney general, I think makes sense. Watching the left's, I guess, freak out about this is interesting to me because, and it's almost insulting some of that, like once you really sit and think about it. I'm going to see if I can articulate this in a way that makes sense and that drives home this point. But when I sit and listen to these guys just rail against like the Pete Hegseth or the Matt Gaetz picks, specifically with Pete Hegseth, how he was just a Fox News Sunday weekend host or whatever, and like that's his experience. No, they forget to mention he's decorated combat veteran, etc. But it's insulting. Right. And this is just more proof, right? The arrogance of, why would you put in somebody so inexperienced and dumb for the job? It proves this tribalism, right? And this groupthink that this elitist establishment in DC they believe they're so much better than everybody else. They believe they're so much better than you. And they can't help but prove it in their condemnation of other people. Like they prove it every time. And this Pete Hegseth pick is more proof that these elitists just genuinely, these highbrowed elitist establishment turds in DC genuinely believe nobody can do it better than them. Nobody but an insider can do this because all you other people that aren't here are too dumb to do a good job with this. Now, think about that for a second. That would be the equivalent. Let's say you're a single mom who also has a career, right? And you work your butt off, right? You're raising your kids, you're working in your career, and you are gaining experience between managing your family and managing your career, right? And then you're tapped, let's say, to be, I don't know, the CEO of a company, right? Kind of seemingly out of nowhere. And every single person that's in that C-suite is like, what the hell? Like, you're not even remotely qualified to do this job. But the people, the board that hired you, like they saw something in you. All this experience you've accumulated over your lifetime. It's kind of like that. Like, how would you tell this woman who's, raised a family solo and worked an amazing career, she's not ready to be CEO? Why? Because she's never sat in the C-suite before? Well, that's kind of the point, right? And that's how these elitists in DC think. They just think the outsiders, peasants, right? The peasantry outside of DC can't come in and be a part of the party because we're too dumb. We're too dumb to do it. And I think that is so insulting. And I'm not trying to stick up for Pete Hegseth. He can do that himself. And I think he's going to make a great defense secretary. I really do. At first, I was shocked and I was like, ooh, I don't know if this was a good pick. I'll be honest and say that's what I told my wife. I was like, ooh, I don't know. But then the more I thought about it, the more I simmered on it, the more I sat with it, I was like, yeah, I think this is actually a good pick because I've been saying we need to drain the swamp, and the Department of Defense is part of that swamp for years. Now we're getting an outsider who's young and vibrant and smart and has served in combat and knows what it's like to take rounds, going in to fix it and make it strong again and get rid of all the politics that go around in the Defense Department. And I think it's great. And after sitting on it, I'm like, yeah, that's great. And after sitting on it, I realized, that this elitist class in DC has, done such a good job of hiding their elitism, their highbrowed feelings about the rest of us, that we kind of believe the same shit. And it's sad. Like, I believe the same shit. Well, maybe it should be an establishment person that might have more experience around the Defense Department or in our government. That's what they want us to think. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm still falling for it too. Like, this is what they want us to think, that there's no possible way an outsider could be good at this or be experienced enough to do this. But how fast we forget that Donald Trump, who is the outsider of DC in politics, did just fine in 2016. I mean, he opened up our country in a way that we've not seen in a long time. And then we got a quick alternative view of what the Democrat would offer us with Biden and Harris, and it was shit. And we're like, nope, okay, never doing this again. We've experienced it for the last time. We wanted to test the waters and see if you guys were any better, if you were full of shit. That's kind of how I'm looking at this Biden Harris thing. Even though I do think still anomalies with the 2020 may not have been all in the up and up, but we were like, oh, we're going to give you a shot, dude. See if you're really better or just full of shit. Well, we found out. Democrats, full of shit. They have no plan for America except to divide us, condescend us, lie to us, all the stuff, right? Call us racist and try to push through minority, and when I say minorities, I'm not talking about, blacks and Latinos and Asians. Like, I'm talking about like the whole identity politics, LGBTQ thing, the trans thing, like such a small, minute population. But they made it seem like these were the most important issues of our lifetime. And it's like, no, they're not. I just want to buy a gallon of milk without taking out a second mortgage. Like, I don't care about that crap. Like, if you want to, be whatever. It's a free country. You can do whatever you want, man. Don't care. Nobody cares. We just don't leave our kids alone. Let them grow up and figure it out when they're 18, 20, 25, 26, right? You do you, boo, but leave our kids alone, right? And that was it. It was that simple. But the Democrats just couldn't leave it alone, and they proved that they're full of shit. So we got rid of them, right? But they want you to believe this, the same elitist thing that they do, that guys, outsiders just can't do these jobs. They just can't do it because they're not us. They're not us. They haven't been a part of the system and the establishment for years. And it's crazy to think that an outsider can't come in and do a better job. I would argue they can. And we should give them a shot. George Washington wasn't a career-long politician. We didn't even have the country. Those guys were winging it, and they did a pretty good job, right? Thomas Jefferson, our first 4 presidents, were quite literally winging it. We had experience legislating because there were legislators in the colonies, right? Or legislations, I should say, in the colonies. We never had any president before until George Washington. He did a pretty good job, right? Winging it, but did a good job. So this idea that outsiders can't come in and do great work and push our country forward as long as they believe in, the Constitution and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and our natural rights as citizens, and that we, the people, have the power, I don't know how they can go wrong. Yeah, of course they're going to make some mistakes here and there. Who doesn't? But we've got to retire this idea that only establishment people can do these jobs, because that's actually what they want us to think. And I was effing falling for it again. And you guys shouldn't, I shouldn't, we shouldn't fall for that shit anymore. That's what the establishment, the turds and DCs, the swamp rats want us to think, that they're the only ones that know how to do this shit. They're not. We can figure this shit out. So these picks, in my opinion, are awesome. And, the Trump team doesn't need my advice. It seems like they're doing a pretty good job. Plus, I'm nobody anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But keep doing what you're doing. Keep grabbing the outsiders. Keep grabbing the people that, yes, will be loyal to Trump, because we need that. Last time, he had people in the Defense Department and all these agencies trying to fight against and resist everything he was trying to do for the American people. Everything that he was trying to do for the American people, and they need to get out of the way. So keep it up. Keep going, Trump team. Keep bringing these outsiders. I think these are great picks. The more outsiders, the better. I'm excited about Doge, which there are people losing their ever-loving minds over Doge, which I think is quite hilarious. The Department of Government Efficiency, otherwise known as Doge. Now, excuse me. Now, this is not going to actually be a new department in the government. They're just calling it the Department of Government Efficiency. This is an outside advisory board. All it is. They've been clear about that. They've said it out loud. So they don't have to, divest their interest in their companies, et cetera. There's no conflict of interest. They're just an advisory board that's going to look at, the waste in our government and each bureaucracy, and make recommendations to the president. Because the president actually, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, Congress is the only one that can set the spending, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, what do they base those spending budgets on? They have the power of the purse, but the president presents a presidential budget for all the agencies and departments and all that every single time. Like it comes from the president's budget requests. Like, here's the budget for the executive branch, which all these bureaucracies fit into. So for all those of you freaking out thinking, oh, you can't do this, and Musk and Ramaswamy are going to have to divest of their interest. No, they're not, because it's not. The other one I heard is only Congress can create a department of the government, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, dude, they literally said day one, this is going to be an advisory board. It's not going to be an official government agency or department, right? They are going to look at the data of where the money's going. They're going to follow the money, which they have every right to do because they're two American citizens. And they're going to advise, and they're going to take feedback from the American people and show the American people what data they're looking at. They're going to be completely transparent. And then they're going to make recommendations to the president. Nothing illegal about that. Nothing they have to divest. We don't have to create a new department. They've been very clear about that. But all these dumb liberals who don't listen, don't have ears for whatever issue they have with listening to shit, are freaking out about it, saying it's illegal and all this. You can't create the department. Only Congress has the power of the purse, blah, blah. Yeah, but they're going to base that off the president's budget, right? And the executive branch budget. So it is what it is. You guys are crazy. And why wouldn't we want two of the smartest business people in the country looking at these things, right? Like, they're volunteering. I don't even think they're being paid for it. I don't even think they're being paid to do this. And they're like, yeah, we'll do this. We're going to go look at everything and try to cut out the waste. I heard somebody say it the other night, it was so good. And God, I wish I could remember this guy's name, but he said, every dollar the government doesn't spend is a dream born in America for some citizen. And I probably butchered it, but every dollar that the government doesn't send is another dream born for some American somewhere out there, right? Because that's more money in the American people's pockets to do things with, to build their business, start a business, pay off debt or a car loan, or get a car, right? So why wouldn't we want this? And for everybody hating on it, it just makes you scratch your head and go, why would you hate on this? Why would you, what problem do you have with two business guys that are, intelligent, looking at where we might be wasting money? Like, are you for wasted money? Are you for a bloated government? You really start to see where these people, what they really believe, right? And I think most of them are socialist communists. They're just afraid to say it because they know they'll be ostracized, because the vast majority of Americans are not that. And we don't believe in that. We never have, we never will. And we will fight socialism and communism to the bitter end for generations to come. We will fight. And I absolutely believe that. So it kind of makes you wonder when people are bitching about some of these picks and some of these things Trump's doing. What are their why? What are their real beliefs? And I think it's simple. It's socialism and communism. Anyway, guys, I got to leave it there. I just noticed we're 45 minutes into this. I already went over by 10 minutes. That is my B. But I will be back here tomorrow with you guys. So I hope you have a good evening. But until we meet again, I almost forgot. You guys thought you were going to get away with it. If you guys haven't went over and picked up a copy of my book, We the Puppets, The Audience for the Best Illusion Ever Performed, please do so. You can do so over on Amazon or my website, justinstaten.com. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, do me a quick favor. Take a pause, follow the show, and leave your feedback. I do go over and read it, and it is helpful. So thank you. But that's all I got, guys. Until we meet again, stay informed, stay strong, but most importantly, stay in the fight. All right, guys.